The Israeli Antiquities Authority uncovered the remains of a 1,500-year-old Byzantine church just outside of Jerusalem.
Wow, look at that! Oh, it's just coming to life. That's unbelievable. My brain is exploding right now.
It looks like it was written just a few hours ago.
It really does.
For nearly 1,500 years, the mud and silt along the shores of Galilee guarded a secret no one believed still existed. History assumed it had already spoken. Scholars were confident that every word Jesus ever shared with his disciples had been written down, preserved in ink, and fixed forever within the pages of the Bible. Nothing missing, nothing left behind. But that certainty may have been misplaced. On the northern edge of the Sea of Galilee, archaeologists carefully removed layers of waterlogged earth and uncovered something astonishing. Beneath the soil lay a mosaic floor, perfectly silent, untouched since the age of the Byzantine Empire. It wasn't a manuscript. It wasn't a scroll. It was a message set in stone. And what it carries is unsettling. Embedded within those tiles is a command attributed directly to Jesus, spoken to Peter, yet absent from every known gospel, not recorded by scribes, not copied by monks, preserved instead in color, pattern, and stone. These words are not a minor historical detail. They don't simply expand the story, they confront it. They raise questions about what was remembered, what was lost, and what may have been deliberately left out. And if the full meaning of this message is understood, it could challenge the foundations of what we think we know about the origins of the Christian faith itself. Beneath the thick, foul mud along the shoreline, the old stories refused to fade away. For generations, local fishermen had passed down the same unsettling tales. During rare and brutal droughts, they claimed that carved stones would momentarily emerge from the receding water. Some whispered about something far larger hidden below. A massive structure swallowed by mud, a grand building erased by time. For years, these accounts were dismissed as folklore. But eventually, a new team of archaeologists decided the risk was worth taking. They weren't searching for riches or buried gold. They were after something far more difficult to find. A town mentioned repeatedly in the Bible, more often than nearly any other, yet one that had somehow disappeared completely from the landscape. The excavation began in the height of summer. The heat was suffocating. The air hung thick with the smell of soaked soil and decaying plants. There was nothing romantic about the work. It was brutal, draining, and unrelenting. Pumps ran day and night to keep lake water from flooding the trenches. With every foot of earth they removed, the water pushed back, as if the land itself was resisting their efforts, determined to keep its secret buried. Week after week, the skeptics appeared to be right. The team uncovered little beyond endless mud, a handful of broken Roman pottery, and a growing sense of frustration. Spirits sank. Doubt crept in. Then, in a single moment, everything changed. A volunteer's trowel struck something solid, not the dull resistance of packed earth, but a sharp, unmistakable clang. Metal struck stone. The team froze. Work slowed to careful hands as they gently brushed away layers of thick grey silt. First, a straight line appeared, then a corner, then an entire wall. This wasn't a random scatter of rocks. It was intentional, precise stonework laid out in perfect right angles. As the excavation expanded, the true size of the structure became impossible to deny. This was no simple fisherman's shelter. It was massive. The walls were thick, built for permanence, designed to survive centuries of time and pressure. Then another detail emerged as they dug deeper. A smooth, unmistakable curve, an apse, the semicircular space where an altar would normally stand in a church. But this was no ordinary church. Its layout was sophisticated, monumental, and shockingly ancient. And this is what stunned everyone. The building stood exactly where early pilgrims had long claimed the house of Peter once stood. For decades, historians had dismissed those reports. They argued the pilgrims were mistaken, confused travelers who had misidentified the location. According to scholars, the true site should have been miles away, safely on dry land. But the mud at El Araj was telling a very different story. As archaeologists slowly washed away 15 centuries of hardened grime, colour began to emerge beneath their fingertips. Reds, blues, yellows. A mosaic floor appeared, astonishingly intact. The very mud that was expected to destroy the ruins had done the opposite. It had sealed them like a time capsule, protecting them from weather, looters, and even passing armies. Yet the greatest discovery wasn't the building itself. It was what had been woven into the geometric patterns of the floor. A message, a text. One that seemed to speak directly across time, from the year 500 to the people standing there now. And here's the part that defied belief. What they had uncovered was only the beginning. As the team continued cleaning the mosaic tiles, a realization slowly took hold. This church wasn't built on bare ground. It rested directly on top of something else, something far older. And that lower layer held the answer to a question that had haunted scholars for 2,000 years. From this moment forward, the discovery took a far more unsettling turn. The capital of the apostles. To understand why this mosaic matters so deeply, you first have to understand where it was found. This wasn't Jerusalem. It wasn't Nazareth. This was Bethsaida. And if you know the Bible, that name should immediately stand out. Bethsaida was the hometown of Peter, Andrew, and Philip. It was where Jesus healed a blind man. It was where the feeding of the 5,000 took place. In many ways, it served as a central hub for the earliest apostolic movement, an operational heart of Jesus' ministry. But Bethsaida carries another reputation, one far darker. It was one of only 3 cities that Jesus openly condemned. In the Gospel of Matthew, he pronounces a curse upon it. Woe to you, rebuking the city for witnessing miracles yet refusing to change. He warned that it would be cast down to Hades. And history suggests that warning came true. By the 4th century, Bethsaida had become a ghost city. It disappeared from maps. Roman authors stopped mentioning it altogether. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed the place whole. For nearly 2,000 years, no one could agree on where Bethsaida had actually stood. 2 sites fought for the title. One was at Tel, a rocky hilltop filled with impressive ruins, but far too distant from the water to make sense as a fishing village. The other was El Araj, the swampy shoreline where this excavation was unfolding. The debate was fierce. Entire academic careers were built on proving one location right and the other wrong. Then the church was uncovered, and everything changed. When archaeologists dug beneath the Byzantine mosaic floor, they found a layer of destruction. Beneath the church were Roman-era homes, not elite villas, not government buildings, fishermen's houses. The team uncovered lead net weights, fishing hooks, and coins dating to the 1st century. This was the evidence scholars had been waiting decades to find. A fishing village active during the exact years Jesus was alive. It was the smoking gun. But there was one more twist. One that made the discovery even more disturbing. The way this church had been built told a story. Not of coincidence, not of convenience, but of obsession. The Byzantine builders didn't place this church by chance. Its position was calculated with extraordinary care. The entire basilica was centered precisely over the remains of one specific house. And that immediately raises a powerful question. Why this spot? In the ancient world, you didn't construct a massive church over the home of an ordinary fisherman unless that place carried profound meaning. The architects of the 5th century went to remarkable lengths to preserve this exact location. They built protective walls around the original room. They treated the dirt floor of the old house not as debris, but as something sacred. Every detail points to the same conclusion. The builders were utterly convinced they were standing on the true home of Peter. Skeptics may argue that the Byzantines were merely guessing, but memory in the ancient world was far more dependable than we often imagine. People didn't rely on maps or written documents the way we do today. They relied on living memory. Grandfathers brought their grandsons to this place and said, "This is where the rock of the church once lived." And what the discoveries at El Araj suggest is extraordinary. Despite the curse, despite the city's disappearance, a small community of believers endured. They protected the site, they guarded its identity, and they passed that knowledge down, generation after generation. And when the empire finally embraced Christianity, they did what they had been waiting generations to do. They permanently marked the site. They built a monument designed to last. But this monument wasn't meant to be a simple memorial. It was a vault. And inside that vault, its builders sealed a sentence intended to survive the centuries. Words meant to carry us back to the moment Jesus spoke directly to his followers. This is where the story becomes complicated. Because what they embedded into the floor wasn't a familiar verse you'd hear in a Sunday sermon. The stones were about to speak. The Byzantine Code. Let's return to the mosaic. As conservators carefully brushed away layers of dirt and decay, Greek letters slowly emerged. The team gathered around, cameras flashing, tension building. An expert in ancient Greek was called in immediately to translate the inscription on the spot. It begins with a formal dedication to a bishop. Nothing out of the ordinary. Then the tone shifts. The text mentions Peter, but not casually. It calls him the chief and commander of the heavenly apostles. That phrase is explosive. In theology, words are never chosen by accident. The specific Greek terms used here carry enormous weight. They imply hierarchy, authority, a clear chain of command. They suggest that by the 5th century, right here in rural Galilee, Peter was understood not merely as one disciple among many, but as the supreme leader. And that strikes at the core of one of Christianity's longest-running and most contentious debates: authority. The Catholic Church bases much of its authority on the belief that Peter was the first pope, the rock upon which the church was built. Many Protestant traditions reject that idea, arguing instead that Peter was simply one leader among equals. But buried beneath the mud of Peter's own hometown is a text that tells a different story. It supports the idea of Peter as the supreme commander. It shows that local Christians, the very people who lived where Peter himself once lived, believed he held authority over the others. And there's more. The inscription also identifies Peter as the bearer of the keys. That phrase points directly to the moment when Jesus is said to have entrusted him with the keys to the kingdom of heaven. But the mosaic doesn't stop with that familiar passage. And this is where the story takes a truly unexpected turn. The team soon realized the inscription wasn't just a single block of text. It was enclosed within a medallion, a circular frame. And inside that border, barely visible, were smaller, fainter letters. They were difficult to see, as if centuries of footsteps had slowly worn them down. Or perhaps they had been carved lightly on purpose, meant to be noticed only by those who knew to look. To the naked eye, the words were almost invisible. So the researchers brought in advanced imaging equipment. Infrared scanners were used to peer beneath layers of grime and the damage left by time. When the images appeared on the screen, the entire tent went silent. What they were seeing was a continuation of the inscription, a quotation written as direct speech. These were words attributed to the Lord himself, spoken directly to his disciple. Ancient churches often display Bible verses on their walls or floors. That part wasn't unusual, but this text didn't match any known manuscript. It wasn't a standard quotation. It was different, a variation, a deviation, or possibly something even more unsettling. It could have been an earlier version, one that was later removed. The atmosphere at the excavation changed instantly. This was no longer just an artistic find. The team was staring at what looked like a record of a conversation that had taken place 2,000 years ago, spoken just steps from where they were now standing. The words felt personal, almost intimate, and they hinted at something far larger than anything preserved in accepted scripture, a cosmic responsibility, a role unlike any ever formally recorded. The scans revealed something no one expected, a reference to the preparation of heaven itself. Once the infrared images were fully processed, linguists stepped in. They carefully reconstructed the fragmented letters hidden within the faint inner ring of the mosaic. Slowly, deliberately, a sentence came together. It read something like this: "Guard my house, for I go to prepare the heavens." Stop and consider that for a moment. Guard my house. In the Gospel of John, Jesus tells Peter, "Feed my sheep." In Matthew, he calls Peter the rock upon which the church will be built. But nowhere in the accepted New Testament does Jesus ever tell Peter, "Guard my house." And then there's the second line, "For I go to prepare the heavens." We recognize something similar. "I go to prepare a place for you," from John 14. But this wording is different, and that difference matters. It suggests a division of responsibility. Jesus departs to prepare what comes next, while Peter remains behind, as a guardian, a watchman over what stays behind. Which raises a crucial question. What exactly is the house? If it were only a metaphor for the church, the phrase wouldn't feel so striking. But remember where this inscription was found. The church was built directly on top of a house, Peter's house. What if the ancient tradition wasn't just that Peter lived here? What if it said that Jesus explicitly told him, "Stay here, protect this place. This is the anchor." That idea aligns with what scholars call the agrapha, sayings attributed to Jesus that survived in early traditions but never made it into the Bible. Dozens of these sayings exist. Some are strange, some are profoundly moving. But finding one permanently carved into the floor of a major pilgrimage site gives it extraordinary weight. This wasn't just remembered, it was set in stone. It suggests that the people of Bethsaida remembered something the gospel writers chose not to include. And the phrase, "Guard my house," completely reshapes how we understand Peter's role. It doesn't portray him as an administrator or organizer. It casts him as a guardian, a sentinel, someone posted on watch. But guarding against what? That's where the deeper speculation begins. In early Christian belief, sacred places were never assumed to be peaceful. They were seen as contested ground. Battlegrounds, locations believed to draw resistance, where unseen forces pushed back most fiercely. According to early tradition, demons were thought to despise holy places. So when Jesus tells Peter to guard the house, this may not have been symbolic language at all. It may have been a literal assignment, one that went far beyond preaching or leadership, a spiritual duty rooted in protection. This discovery does something else as well. It collapses the distance between legend and reality. It grounds the story. Abstract ideas, like the keys to heaven, suddenly become practical, physical. After all, keys exist to lock, unlock, and protect real places. In effect, the mosaic suggests that the earliest believers viewed this exact location, this specific stretch of muddy shoreline in Galilee, as nothing less than an outpost of heaven on earth. An embassy. And Peter wasn't just teaching there. He was left in charge, the one instructed to hold the line until the master returned. But there's still another layer to this story, one that moves beyond history and into the mystical. The idea of preparing the heavens. What does that actually mean? It sounds less like metaphor and more like construction, as if heaven itself wasn't finished yet. As if, while Peter stood watch on earth, Christ was actively shaping what came next, building, preparing, expanding reality itself. That is a far more dynamic and unsettling vision of the afterlife than what most people ever hear in a Sunday sermon. The team understood right away that they were dealing with something dangerous in its implications. This single sentence seemed to fuse earth and sky, history and theology, the physical world and the divine. But, as with discoveries like this, an even stranger possibility begins to emerge. The final piece of the puzzle may not be buried in the soil at all. It may be written in the stars, the final secret. If we take the inscription at face value, "Guard my house, for I go to prepare the heavens," we're forced to ask an unsettling question. Why here? Why this exact point on the planet? Why would the preparation of the heavens require a specific physical location on Earth to be protected? Among fringe scholars and unconventional theologians, those willing to step beyond accepted doctrine, there's a quiet theory. The idea that certain places on Earth act as anchors, locations where the physical and the spiritual intersect, as above, so below. It's an ancient concept, rooted in Hermetic thought. The material world mirrors the spiritual one. But what if that idea isn't just symbolic? What if it's literal? What if Earth's geography isn't just land and water, but something closer to circuitry? And what if some locations function like connection points? If Jesus told Peter to guard the house while he prepared the heavens, could Bethsaida have been understood as one of those points? A junction, a doorway, a bridge between realms. Look at the pattern. This was no ordinary fishing village. It was a center of the impossible, the place where the blind were given sight, where crowds were fed from nothing, an event that defies the laws of conservation, where Jesus walked on water, openly challenging gravity itself. If miracles clustered anywhere, they clustered here, and that raises a final unsettling possibility. This place mattered not just symbolically, but cosmically. Viewed through a science fiction lens rather than a strictly religious one, something deeply unsettling begins to take shape. The laws of physics seem thinner here. The boundary between worlds feels fragile. Reality itself appears flexible, almost editable in real time. So maybe guarding the house was never about protecting a building or even a community. Maybe it was never about a building at all. Maybe it was about guarding a breach, keeping a gateway secure. That idea aligns disturbingly well with Gnostic writings, the ancient esoteric texts later rejected and erased by the early church. Many of those writings speak of guardians and gatekeepers, figures assigned to watch the thresholds between light and matter, between heaven and the physical world. The mosaic uncovered at Araj may be a surviving fragment of that older, more mystical form of Christianity, a version that didn't survive intact. A version later smoothed over by Rome, reshaped into a safer structure of bishops and popes, while its wilder, cosmic elements were buried beneath doctrine, stone, and silence. This discovery forces us to rethink the apostles themselves, not just as teachers in robes, but as participants in something far larger, operators within a cosmic framework. Peter wasn't simply a fisherman elevated into leadership. He was the one left behind, the sentinel. The guardian entrusted with the keys, not merely as a symbol of authority, but possibly to an actual doorway, while the master architect went to work on the other side. It suggests the ascension wasn't just a farewell, it was a departure, and someone had to remain to guard the threshold. Then comes the most chilling detail of all. The church wasn't destroyed by invaders. In the 8th century, an earthquake swallowed it whole, as if the earth itself moved to seal the secret. For more than 1,000 years, Peter's house vanished, lost, unguarded, or deliberately hidden. Now, it has resurfaced, and whatever was once meant to be protected is no longer buried. The timing doesn't feel accidental, it feels deliberate. Maybe this message was never meant for Peter alone. Maybe it was always meant to survive, to wait, to reach us. Guard the house, protect the foundation, watch the breach. The site has been covered once again, but the words are no longer buried. They can't be unseen, they can't be unheard. The signal is out. So here's the real question. If Jesus gave Peter instructions that never made it into the Bible, what else might be missing? Or is this simply a beautiful mosaic? Nothing more? You decide. And if you want to explore more buried history and forgotten secrets, make sure to like and subscribe.